place real? That depends. If real is what you can feel, smell, taste, and see, then real is simply electrical signals interpreted by your brain. Pikachu, I have in my hand 2 pills. You take the blue pill, and the story ends now. You take the red pill, you stay in Wonderland, and I show you how deep the Diglett hole goes. But be warned, dive too deep, and you may never return.
Should have a trading feature that people can trade safely and have another reason to vault. I love that idea so much. I've thought about that exact idea quite a number of times. Like when I'm on ComC, because I love ComC, I'm always on ComC. I'm just like, how cool would it be if I could like this card? I could trade these 5 cards for those 3 cards. Just like I've always thought of that idea, but it's hard to think of how the business model for that one, how the vault would end up making profit from it, but.
Yeah, unless it's like a company with just like a ridiculous, like it has to be like an Amazon where it's making money from so many other areas where it's like, oh, we can still grow our business if we just go in a hole in this particular area or whatever. I don't know if there's Fanatics is the closest thing I can think of that probably has the money to do this, or obviously BlackRock owns the CGC and CSG, so depends on how much money BlackRock, if they wanted to actually inject a certain amount of capital into it, which it probably won't, but yeah, that would be cool.
I did hear, I was listening to a podcast the other day. That was kind of cool. There's some kind of company that's developing that has like, a couple of different they're located in a few places across the US, and they're basically like the middleman for trading for people who want to trade cards. So the people who want to trade cards will send them there. They make sure everything's legit, and then they send them off to the different people just to make sure there's a certain level of trust. So I don't know if from my understanding of the podcast, I thought their idea was a little bit like that. To eventually create a system, a bit of an ecosystem for trading cards, which would be really cool, because that's really, in many ways, that's the root of the hobby. Is they're called trading cards. The origins of it was a lot about that. People would try to put together complete sets, and so they just trade with other people and then get their complete sets together. So it would be nice to have that more.
Yeah.
There's some cool comments in here. We've skipped over. If we've skipped over your comments, by the way, guys, I'm sorry. We get into the conversation and then it's hard to jump it to everybody's comments. But I've been reading them, and there's a lot of good stuff over there. Let me just pop up a few. Hobby Champs was talking about the PWCC and about how he wants to try them, but he's kind of a little reluctant because their hobby is kind of murky. Do you know much about that whole thing? I mean, I guess we don't have a whole lot of time. We've gone well past 2 hours, and it's almost midnight for me over here. But I am curious because PWCC, I know there was so much that happened. I have no concept of the reality of the situation. It seemed like a lot of he said, she said kind of stuff, and I don't know much. Do you know much about like what actually went on with all that?
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's harder now because I think before you could bid on your own cards for PWCC auctions, but I think now you can't. Because I remember I sold a card and I just like checked to see, and you couldn't. So you can't directly bid on with your account. However, you can make a second account. It's kind of hard if you have to use a second phone number, and you have to verify that phone number. But their apps, they did get caught shield bidding and trimming, or just selling trim cards.
So my question with that, though, is were they shield bidding, or was somebody who was selling their cards was shield bidding? That was kind of
probably someone
signing through them, and they weren't at fault. Or were they at fault? Were they actually doing it? And the trim cards, did they know what they were doing, or was this was this. I'm curious, at the ethics side. Like I realized, like from a business standpoint, you need to have stronger forces in there to make sure that things don't fall through the cracks. But was it nefarious or was it accidental? I'm very curious because my own approach or my own thoughts about whether or not I would want to use PWCC in the future is based on that a lot. So I've been trying to think a little bit more because it just seemed like when it happened, it was like, eBay said this, but there was also, I was reading a lot of stuff about how like PWCC was becoming kind of a competitor of eBay. So there was also like business reason for eBay not to want PWCC to be there. So, was it kind of like blown up a little bit out of proportion, or was it really a genuinely massive problem? And I've never really been able to get to the full story of what actually, if it was truly nefarious, if it was, they just need to have better protections in place.
Yeah. So,
Collector's Dream is.
So when it was on
I wish we
eBay,
could add him on here.
Yeah, I agree with Collector's Dream. A Collector's Dream. It was both sellers and employees that were shield bidding. Also, it became murky because they were on eBay. So obviously, you can just shield bid on eBay. You can make another eBay account. There is like limitations for PWCC. And later on, they kind of started to crack down. So if you didn't pay for an item, they just permanently banned you or banned your account. So you have to like do another account. So you could probably shield bid through eBay. You could shield bid through PWCC account, which they kind of control for, but you can get around that. Like there's ways you can make another PWCC account and then bid up a card or something. And you don't see who the bidders are on PWCC. So those are factors. And then I think there are certain people who are receiving emails to like from PWCC to kind of like bid on their cards and stuff like that. And then the trimming thing, yeah, there's certain cards that they probably knew were trimmed, but they tried to sell anyway and just pass it off, or that were fake or just questionable. There's questionable authenticity, but they're like, oh, we're gonna go through with it anyway.
So that's interesting. I'm going to have to, Collector's Dream said the complete stories on blowout cards. I'm going to have to find that because I do feel like, when we were talking about some of the different things, some of the different like lack of transparency with certain grading companies or lack of kind of ethical behavior with this example, like, I feel like these are the kind of things like we were talking before about the difference between critical content and mania content. And I feel like the space where the critical content is also really important is so that we collectively have an understanding of what's, the business practices and the kind of things that we want to actually be supporting, because there's, the thing about sports cards I find is it's actually a very small community generally, and it's the possibilities for things to go in a good direction are there if we make the choices for them to go that way. Like if the systems are set up, like it seems like PWCC is an example of like they had created a system that incentivized themselves to be corrupt, which is not how it's not how it should structure. PSA's upcharging, we were talking before too, is like a system that's structured specifically built in a way that incentivizes corruption. I feel like that's not the way that businesses should be structuring themselves in this space. We need a space that's much more transparent, that's much more that's much more honest. That's of course businesses need to make money, but there's so many possibilities to make money in this space, but in ethical ways. That's why that's one of the reasons I support ComC a lot, is because my impression, I don't know everything about them, but I really like the approach they have. I like the concepts behind what they tried to do from the business get-go. The ways that they seem to approach business seem very legit. Like I respect them. It's easy to respect them, so I like that. Like, or like, recently I've been using Card Hedge, and one of the big reasons I leaned towards Card Hedge is because I found that it was just so easy to respect the people doing it, to see what they're doing, to understand why they're doing it, to respect who they are as humans, and to feel like I want to support that, because it's somebody, it's easy. I want to support people and businesses that I feel are making contributions in the space that are positive and that are good, so.
Yeah. I use
that.
Comfy quite a bit. Dang, there was actually one more thing that kind of came to my mind. Because you mentioned you have like card letter market movers or big things that people talk about. And they report sales history of cards. That can kind of skew things, right? Because if people find out, people are willing to pay 3x for this card now. The ethical thing that kind of comes to mind is the private sales, and it's like this private sale was an all-time high, and it's like I'm sure there are ways to confirm that someone paid for it and stuff like that, but my thought process on a private sale is everything about it is private. And because here's the thing, I don't know if they're gonna say, oh, we have this private sale of I don't know 1986 Fleer Jordan PSA 10 for $100K, all time low or low in the last 2 years or something. Are they gonna do that, or are they only gonna do it when it's an all time high?
Yeah, well, that's why I think like the data tracking platforms themselves shouldn't have any. I mean, there should be no incentive for them to do it in a dishonest way. I mean, if it's sold for an all-time high or an all-time low, it shouldn't make a difference to the data tracking platforms themselves, I would think. So, but that's why it's so important to that there's ethics. I keep saying the word ethics is, I'm doing a class right now. I'm on my last class of my master's degree program, and it's on ethical leadership. The whole class is on ethical leadership. So I've been reading all these documents and everything about this within the realm of education, like for educational leadership. And but it's true in every space. I find if there's a data tracking tool that I believe in the ethics of the people doing it, then I think I believe that they're going to do the best efforts to try to confirm things, that maybe there's still room for human error, in a private sale. I know from Card Hedge, for example, JD was saying that in one of his videos, he was talking about how if there's a private sale, the way that its data will get entered into the system is if there's proof that that sale went down. If there's some online provable thing where they can look at this, they can see, okay, this really happened, we'll add it in. And if they can't prove it, then they don't put the data in there. So they do their best at least to try to make sure it's legit stuff. There's always room for human error in any of these spaces, though, which is one of the reasons why data can be unreliable.
True. Yeah. Well, we talked about a lot.
Yeah. We're at 2 hours and 15 minutes. Yeah, we have a lot of other things here. I wish we could have commented on some of these last comments here. I'm gonna have to go and see this Rattle Pokemon's interaction with Eric Meyer PWCC. I haven't seen that. I'll have to look that up. I really didn't look up much about PWCC previously. I'd never used them, but just more recently, I've been wanting to learn a little bit more about them because I was curious. So now I have a lot of directions to look at. I'm gonna have to do
I will mention this. Certain PWCC cards. There are some major players in the hobby that do use PWCC. So there are some like mid-tier to high mid-tier cards that kind of sell that like hard to find and may not show up on eBay as much. So that's where I try to buy, but I try not to keep it in the vault anymore. A lot of times I just ship it to, I just pay $5 for shipping or something like that, and then ship it to my Ship My Cards vault. But I don't want to keep it in there for too long too, because I don't know what companies are going to go over or go under, just because everybody has a vault, right? Everybody's trying to get you not to pay sales tax and save money, which is great. But I am concerned that not all these vaults are going to last. And some of these companies, and PWCZ could be one of them, where what happens to your cards, right? Like, you want to feel and hold your cards, but still, like, you keep them in the vault. I probably prefer a safety deposit box for more expensive stuff at a bank, but like, it's one of those things where if they go under or they go bankrupt or something, are they going to send your cards to you, or are they just going to keep them and sell them down the line?
I think legally, if they did that, I mean, that would be straight up jail time. I mean, because officially those cards are not, they don't own those cards.
True.
So I think, if something like that happened, I think it'd be crazy for them. I mean, I think, I mean, what I could see, the only comparison I could make is with Star Stock, and Star Stock, basically, they had to, their number of staff went so far down. I put an order in to get some of my cards back in May, I think. I still don't have them yet, because it's just, I know that they'll come eventually. I just know it's going to take forever because the lack of human resources. So, that's what I would imagine would happen if any of those other places went out of business. It'd probably just be like, you have to wait a year before you get your cards.
Oh man. Yeah. That's insane.
Crazy stuff. All right, man. There's some this comment here I wanted to pull up here. Do you think eBay will try to expand their vault for cheaper cards to get more of the cake?
Maybe. I feel like eBay can do whatever they want to do, because they sell so much stuff, right? Like that, the sports cards are still a small portion of their business. So if I've seen, they've done a lot to expand their sports card division or whatever. When I talked to customer service, like with the Jim Brown card that somebody tried to scam me with, it was just one of those things where, the person I was talking to knew what the Jim Brown card was, or knew what the kind of card was. And just over time, because I sold on eBay for, even still today, for the last 3 years. So the knowledge base of like the people, even customer service I've talked to, know more about this stuff. But they could if they want to, and it could be a thing. But they don't necessarily have to, because I don't think anyone's going to replace eBay as far as buying cards.
Yeah.
And you still have a bunch of consigners like Probstein and other consigners, even though they lost PWCC. And PWCC is just collectibles in general, video games, cards, maybe some coins, and maybe some comic books.
Yeah. Yeah, it also seems to me like, they could, like you said, if eBay wanted to go into expanding their vault for cheaper cards to get more of the cake, they absolutely could if they wanted to. My question would be whether it'd be worth it for them, like, because they have, like you say, they have so many different spaces in their business, and the lower end cards are probably the ones that would make the least amount of like money for them, because it's, a $3 card, they're going to get themselves 45 cents or something like that, but a $300 card, they're going to get themselves $45, something like that. So they probably have more incentive to go for the bigger cards, and because the more cards you have in a vault, the more human resources you need, the more space you need, the more you need to spend on air conditioning and all this, and security and all these other kinds of things. So they have the money to do that, but it seems like the incentive to really try to get the lower end cards is not there so strongly. But anyway, cool topics. I'm thinking, I'm starting to fade. I'm getting really tired.
Yeah.
Almost midnight for me now. We've been on here for 2 hours and 22 minutes. This is awesome though. I really enjoyed this.
Yeah, those was very fun.
Always enjoy it, Chris. We'll have to do this again at some point.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, we'll probably many more in the future. But I pretty much gotta head out because I got a lot of stuff to do for today. But
yeah, your day's just beginning. It's noon for you, yeah?
Yeah, getting close to noon now.
All right, very good. Well, this was awesome. So, and thank you everybody who's been in the comments there. This was my only my second live stream, and it's so much fun having having people in the comments, sharing some different thoughts, and then like we can bounce ideas off people down there. It's so much fun. I might have to do these lives. I did a live a week ago for the first time with Peter Pacman. I think you saw that one as well.
Mhm.
You were jealous. You said you wanted to have him as well. You should. By the way, he's awesome. But I've learned I actually really like these lives. It's so nice to be able to just kind of sit back and chat and talk about the hobby, and this is the first time that there's been people in the comment box. So that added a whole new element to it. That was really fun.
Yeah. Also, quick question. So you use StreamYard and then just connect it with YouTube?
Yeah. So you should be able to do that as well. It's if you want to try to do this on your channel, you go into the live stream thing, and the first time you say you want to do a live stream, they have to give you there's a 24-hour sort of thing you have to check out, make sure that that you're legit or whatever. But you don't have to have 1,000 subscribers yet. You can do it anytime, and then you just sign up for this is called StreamYard. You'll get like a 7-day trial, and that in the 7 days you can do some additional features. But once the trial ends, I've just learned from this stream that you can still do it just for a general live stream like this, for the free version.
Okay, cool. All right. Well, it's been great talking to you, Javed.
Absolutely. You as well, Chris. One of the best lives. Great job. It's awesome. Thanks, Hobby Champs. That's really encouraging to hear. Appreciate you guys. All right, all. Have a good day, I guess. Peace. Mahalo. Is it ending? I thought it would already end by now. Do I just have to stay in this position? It's not ending.